to the S.O.C.A.T, where we do a little storytelling, mix a little poetry, and seduce your mind. Welcome back. A lot of people have skipped out on church due to some type of trauma, blaming God when he wasn't the ringleader of your pain. And I'm going to give you a little piece I like to call S.O.C.A.T, separation of church and trauma. They say life and death are in the power of the tongue. But when the tongue becomes a serpent that spits venom to its congregants, who can tell the difference? We bow to separation of church and state, but cannot separate church and trauma. We lay on altars just to pick up our pain for the weak, never really giving God the problem. We jump out of burning churches saying the devil has made its way in, but constantly follow the devil amongst our own friends. Blinded to trauma, we never see necrosis until we have to amputate the connection. We tend to blame the church for sinners posing as Christians, but ain't Christ-like. Those who have a relationship with God don't sell you by vocabulary, but reel you in through actions not televised. I wonder if y'all truly saw the word in human form, because you associate trauma with the church, blaming your disconnect on Jesus and not man who was a wolf in sheep's clothing. Tailoring to the world is nice to fill seats, but who's going to train the seat fillers to lead? We constantly decipher the truth and say lies were written to control you, but cannot separate tradition and folklore from law. Always looking at a person to lead the church who has turned their back on God to fill the pew. Pockets. Stealing from the offering basket, forgetting Jesus flipped tables to warn the masses of deceit, and yet we repeat the cycle like sheep led to the slaughter. She tells me the church is too cliquish, only talking to ones they understand. So she walked out of church blaming God with closed hands. The indoctrination of the word has never changed, even if translations doesn't translate the message for its own gain. She told me she met him at church, and he was a frequent flyer, but would never sit down. His seat would continuously be filled, but he was never mentally around. The pain he laid on her caused scars even a hologram could cast to the screen, but she couldn't separate church from trauma, and cursed God for falling for a villain hunting in churches for souls not yet mature to discern. Discernment only comes by studying the word. We missed our relationship wanting to know more about the world. Prophets already told you what the world would look like, but we stayed deaf to the lesson. He told me the clergy took to him too loosely and defiled his innocence, so he won't step foot in the church for the heathens. Those who cannot separate church from trauma always repeat the cycle in church hopping. Cannot decipher the man whose calling was chasing him, but he'd rather choose the way of Jonah. She told me Viper's brood tastes like honey tea when listening to gossipers deconstruct the congregants in front of her, claiming all churches are the same. And she'd rather not fraternize on the count of two hyenas spiritually tearing the walls of Jericho, but not by the sounds of trumpets. See, we often listen to the lies of men sitting in seats of a church thinking because they call themselves a Christian, that knowing God is obsolete. The church is filled with sinners. Some hear the word and can decipher their own trauma from the church and are saved never to return to that pain. Some hear the word, and the minute someone interrupts the conversation between God, they suddenly have amnesia to what he told them. And they continue to jump from church to church, seeking to fulfill a void that isn't there, and they'll never feel it, running from God when he's trying to heal it. Some hear the word and shout like David did in intercession, but hop in their cars like God didn't just say to choose him, meaning repent. They often repeat the phrase like rewinding the cassette, but never receive the glory that God gives because they never trusted God enough to deny themselves and follow him. Their trauma is locked behind closed doors and blocked from the world to pick apart. We go to church like it's the emergency room of a hospital, but when God convinced, we leave against medical advice and drown in the sea of shoulda, woulda, coulda. We fail to separate church from trauma because trauma gives us an excuse to blame God for what he didn't do. We fail to separate church from trauma because if man did it, then God did it. We often tend to trauma bond with like-minded individuals who've been through our same struggle yet fail when they fail and turn away. We curse God for our downfall but never listen to his compass and left the church calling it cults, so no one enters. Our trauma is deeply embedded in the church because of offense taken during weekly sermons, and we wonder who's been snitching on our lives. But God sent the email to convict you, but you're like Adam and Eve trying to make an excuse as to why your secret is brought to the light. The emergent hour of truth. As we can separate church and state, because we want to rewrite what feels good to us and draw the line when mortality reaches the end. Separating church from trauma is like weaving your trauma in the church through vocal blasts, trying to hold on to pain as you navigate new churches. If you were ever in the spirit, close your eyes and look neither to the left or the right. Distractions happen when we take our eyes off God. We let our trauma control the setting of how we perceive church to be, but remember, all seek fillers aren't following Christ. If we separate church from trauma and put the blame where it needs to be, we can hear God directly and not from his prophets he's chose to speak through. God didn't tell humans to hurt you. They disobeyed his commands to prey on you. See, train your spirit to not fall for the enemy. Even they can be vindictive. Separation of church and trauma don't always look easy, and most never try to start. God never wanted seek fillers. He wanted the circumcision of your heart. Thanks for tuning in to the S.O.C.A.T. Hey, did we ride your mind tonight? Did you feel good? Tune in next time because you don't wanna miss this.